Welcome to All Angles, a college admissions podcast by Comet, where we help you crack the code to college admissions and making informed decisions about your future. With our unique approach of exploring all angles, we delve deep into the complex and multifaceted world of college. Our show features expert advice, real world collegiate experiences, and valuable tips and strategies to help you get into the college of your choice while also succeeding academically, socially, and professionally. Join us for interviews with admissions experts, hiring managers, as well as discussions with college students on a wide range of topics related to their academic and social experience. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the importance of summer activities for college applications and the different activities that you guys can participate in depending on the interests that you have. On today's episode, we'd also like to feature our guest, Elton. Elton, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Shania, thank you for inviting me on the show again. It's always good to be here with you. So my name is Elton Lin. I'm the CEO and founder of Comet. I've also been a Comet, which is your all-in-one college app companion, where we help students find majors, select colleges, edit essays, and manage all the tasks needed in order to apply. Essentially, we're trying to make applying to college easier for everybody, no matter where you're from. And I've also been a private college counselor for the better part of 12 years. I've seen a ton of students apply everywhere and have helped students gain admission to every top 50 school, including every Ivy League. And so excited to share whatever I got and help more students reach their higher ed goals. So let's get into it. What do we got today, Shania? What do we got?
Awesome. So today I am curious, especially as we're now approaching summer, about summer activities. I remember in middle school that once summer came, I kind of like laid in bed like the entire 8 or 10 weeks. And then, I kind of like didn't really do much. And then I think coming into high school, I started to see people working on clubs and other competitions and activities over the summertime. So I'm definitely curious now, like, do you think that summer activities are something that students, especially in high school, should be participating in? Do they hold any value?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, summertime is really like the one time where you have more room, time, space to really do the things that you want to do. And let me encourage students to like not just take the entire summer off, like not just whatever you might do. If you could do anything on the summer, I mean, well, you maybe like just wake up and eat and take long naps and whatever it is that you might do. But and I'm not necessarily saying that you have to like take a ton of classes. I'm not saying that you need to totally stress yourself out, but just to make it productive. And productive means to do activities that you're interested in doing that may also help you potentially figure out what you might want to study in college. And so this could be either volunteering with local nonprofits. It could be taking a class at a community college. It could be participating in a summer program. It could be shadowing your local doctor or physical therapist, or it could be working at Domino's, which I did have a student do, and he learned a ton. So it could be anything, but just make it productive. And also note that on your college app, you can include a resume of your activities that you've completed in high school. So that high school bracket of time, like whatever you do during that time, can be included on your college app resume. So that's why more and more students are taking advantage of the summer and doing stuff that they want to do. And so yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah, and so like, in addition to maybe summer classes that students might choose to take, whether that's through a community college or a class that your local high school is offering, how do you think that people can find activities to participate in? I know that sometimes you might find something through social media or LinkedIn, but I think that sometimes even figuring out where to exactly start and find an activity that you actually want to participate in, or maybe meets kind of what you're comfortable doing, like where do you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say like the internet, but like, which there's a site called Google, Shania. No, no, it's a great question, and the reality there's a couple of good sites that I think that are there to help you find volunteering. and I've used Volunteer Match quite a bit. And you can sort of set up the custom search engine to look for specific things that you might be interested in doing, whether it's related to like environmental science or like running a coding workshop for kids in your community after school. There is an array of different things and that are geared specifically for teens. So you can definitely find a lot of volunteering opportunities there. Strangely enough, high schools still post like volunteering opportunities on their websites and nonprofits that are like looking specifically for high school students from that particular high school. So you can certainly look on your school's website. And on top of the fact that you can certainly go into if you're looking for part-time jobs, go into restaurants, tea shops, coffee shops, whatever store that you're interested in, and ask them if they're looking for part-time work this summer and pick up fill out an online application or talk to the manager. And you'd be surprised if you just show a little bit of initiative, people are interested in helping you. So definitely keep a lookout, and you can find some stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And how would you suggest, how would you weight the importance of having those kind of activities on your college applications? I mean, outside of the fact that it, probably is helping you with your networking aspect, and then also just kind of getting into the habit of maybe having some sort of routine, even over the summertime, having a goal, maybe if you're earning, kind of saving up that money you're earning. Like, what would you say are some of the benefits maybe that come with having these activities and putting them on your application?
Yeah, I think if you think about it from the college admissions officers, what do you imagine like they're looking for? I mean, maybe on the academic side, which will perhaps we've talked about in another podcast, but like they're looking for grades and your ability to perform in college. But on the activity side, they're looking for students who are curious. They're looking for students who will take the initiative. They're looking for students who, like, if they see a problem, they will be a part of the solution. And they don't want students to sit in their dorm room and just sit behind the computer, play Fortnite. I don't even know if students are playing Fortnite, Shania, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But like whatever they're playing, they're not looking for students to like hide themselves in their dorm room. They're looking for students to get out there, be a part of the community, and do stuff. And demonstrating that by getting out there and doing stuff, almost whatever it might be. So part-time jobs, volunteering, just helping out with local nonprofits, finding ways to like even, maybe your school. Like I have students who like helped their IT department clean out keyboards all summer just to whatever it might be, get out there, do stuff. And it shows that you're not just going to sit around and you're going to be an active part of your community, and you'll get out there and be someone that they want to see on campus.
Yeah, and so kind of speaking on people that are getting out in the community, of course, there's a lot of different opportunities for activities available to students depending on what they want to study or major or just kind of like experience. And again, like what fits within their, time and whether or not they want to be earning or volunteering. I know you've worked with a lot of students, so I'm curious, do you have any examples or stories of students maybe that have kind of participated in non-traditional summer activities that have kind of maybe helped them improve their own skill set or kind of stand out on their college apps?
Yeah, so actually let me preface this story I'm going to share by saying that like another reason for getting involved in different activities is to demonstrate to colleges an interest in a potential major. So like invariably when you get to your college app, you're going to need to write this essay that says why this major, so why engineering, why history, why whatever. And you're going to need some activities to substantiate your interest in that particular major. So as far as like some like non-traditional summer activities, one of my favorite students that we worked with, he was like interested in mechanical engineering, looking for like a mechanical engineering internship, sent his resume to some companies, was applying to some research opportunities, and applied to like 12, 13, 14 different opportunities and got nothing. And like super frustrated. His mom's being a normal, maybe some of your guys' moms might say the same thing. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just work at McDonald's? And the guy's like, fine, I'm going to work at McDonald's. And so he applied to McDonald's, was hired at his local McDonald's, and he was put on burger duty. And while he was like if you know the whole history of McDonald's, McDonald's is like the forerunner, the original innovator of like the burger machine, like the entire mechanical engineering, process engineering, like invention was like mass produced by McDonald's. And so for him as a mechanical engineer, it was fascinating for him to see the process of how a burger was constructed and made its way all the way to like an order. And it was super fascinating to him, all the different processes, and he ended up writing about his McDonald's experience on his main Common App personal statement. And he was admitted to Cornell for mechanical engineering. And so like, so I mean, maybe you might think that you might need some fancy research internship, but any way for you to get out there and just be curious about your particular area of interest, go find ways, and it can certainly be a good learning experience for you.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of branch off of that, I'm curious, like you mentioned that sometimes colleges are looking to see whether your activities or interests are aligning with somebody that maybe they have a specific major or like field of study in mind. What would you maybe suggest to some of our viewers that are planning to go in undeclared? Do you think they should do one activity for every single major and to kind of show like they have a little bit of skill in everything? What would you advise people that really just aren't sure like what they want to be doing in college?
I mean, obviously they should be working at McDonald's, should I? I mean, for crying out loud, just get the McDonald's gig, get in there, and you're gonna get into Cornell. No, I wish that were the case. But I think let me preface my response by saying that I think most students have no idea what they want to do. So if you come in and you want to go in undeclared, give yourself some time and space to explore, that's totally fine. And would even encourage students to do so. You don't need to make up, like, you don't need to feel like this one decision is like the decision of your life. But with undeclared students, like you still need to just be curious and still do stuff. And we had a student who applied to Johns Hopkins. She was just sharing about how like she was in robotics, she was in speech and debate, she was also in a poetry club, and she just these were just things that she wanted to do. And her essay was like I have so many things that I enjoy, so many things that I love, and I cannot bear to just limit myself at this stage of my life. And I'm going to explore, I'm going to figure it out, but this is not the time to do so. This is the time to explore. And you can even kind of sense that like like just even with an undeclared student, like you want to still see the initiative that students are taking in order to really explore and find out what they really love. And so my thing is, even for it's totally fine. The only thing that you shouldn't be doing is doing nothing. I think that's perhaps the moral of the story. So Shania, did you make use of all your summers?
I feel I would like to say I did. I don't know if my parents would entirely agree, but I think it was definitely hard at the beginning of high school because you sometimes in elementary or middle are like not doing as much over the summer, and so you're transitioning into, you know, finding that balance between like working over the school year and then having this like big chunk of free time and wanting to make sure you're resting, but also maybe studying or getting something done. But I think slowly I kind of got the hang of, you know, participating in activities. One thing that I heard at the beginning of my high school career, which kind of like helped me shape and determine whether or not I wanted to be doing a particular activity, was I heard that it's important for you to stay consistent. So I had people tell me that instead of doing like multiple, like 3 or 4 activities over the summer or a different one every single, you know, summer, you should try to be in the same company or the same place and try to grow in your position there. So do you think there's like a hard and fast rule with that where people should ideally try to stick to the same place for a long period of time? Or, you know, is it flexible? It doesn't really matter to colleges.
Yeah, I think there is value to what you're saying, and I think there needs to be, if I can be honest with you, I think a realistic mixture of both. And I think what this is where, like, if you think about your high school, you know, for those of you who are watching this video, like I am with hand motioning a pyramid, if you will, and your ninth grade is at the bottom and your 12th grade is at the top. as a ninth grader, you should be broadly exploring, and like you should be jumping into different clubs, you should be taking different classes, you should be volunteering in different places, and there's no possible way for you to remain consistent with all of them. So you have to do a lot of different things in order to figure out what it is that you really want to do. And then over time, as you get from 10th grade to 11th grade until you get to the peak at the 12th grade, you want to do fewer things, but then go more deeply into those fewer things. And so that's where your commitment, your longer term relationship with an organization, with a club activity, with a sport, or whatever it is, that's where your commitment will show. And that's how universities might see that willingness to kind of stick with something and stick it all the way through. But you're also not being dishonest about yourself by sticking with something that's not a good match for you. So yes, longevity, commitment is important, but commit to the things that are important to you and don't be afraid to release the other things that aren't a good fit.
Yeah, I like that pyramid analogy. When I was in my freshman year of high school, I like joined a bunch of different clubs like Red Cross, and I joined speech and debate for a while because I heard that there was free fruit snacks at the in the classroom.
Ooh.
So I used to go there every after school. But I think that slowly, like after ninth grade, I kind of started to narrow down like what I really liked. And then by 11th or 12th grade, it was primarily like 2 or 3 clubs that I was like consistently participating with. So I think that definitely makes sense. And this next part is a little more geared toward like, you know, students that are thinking of maybe pursuing something in the humanities like arts, social sciences. You know, there's a lot of different programs that can, you know, workshops and art camps that help students kind of develop their artistic skills. And do you personally know of any maybe programs to help students with that, or just kind of the importance or benefit of participating in one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think for specifically the arts and the humanities, I actually think like we could probably even do a podcast specifically on the arts, which I think is a little bit different. And this is where if you're an art student, the goal isn't, I mean, there are some prestigious programs. There's Tanglewood, which is BU, and a few other programs that are, you know, relatively selective, and it does signal something. But aside from that, I think the bigger thing is just to perform or produce as much art as you can. So that could be in just taking a community college class. It could be like working with a teacher. It could be a lot of things, but you just need to generate as much work as you can. And with regards to like other summer programs, there's always like a very small handful of programs that are pretty good. And this is there's a business program at Penn. There are like science research programs at MIT and Stanford, and also at Boston University that are also very stellar. And but I feel like you don't need to, like, the overwhelming majority of summer programs are normally like not super difficult to get into. And like it is a good way for you to explore a particular area of interest, but it's by far not a necessary way. And so there's lots of different things you can do over the summer. There are certainly other programs and internships. I'm trying to think of, if you're specifically in the arts, like a way to help you produce a lot more work is to like use competitions as a way, as a benchmark to help you produce more art. So there's like a lot of scholastic arts and writing awards. If May 1st is the deadline, you set that deadline as a timeline to help you generate more work. So by the time you get to your college app, you'll have enough content to put together a portfolio. Because if you wait to put together your portfolio closer to when you apply to college, it's going to be like way too late. So
Yeah, and kind of going off of the portfolio and just when people are applying to college, how do you think that they can, you know, effectively demonstrate their artistic achievements and experiences, especially with something like arts? It might be hard outside of the portfolio on your essays to maybe put into words, you know, kind of the experience and the skill you have in that. So how would you suggest that people really showcase and translate their artistic skills or their interest in the humanities in their application?
yeah, I think I will split up the arts and the humanities because I think those two things are actually very, very different. So just a real quick with the arts, I feel like it really is still generating as much work as you can. So you can certainly again take a take a class, work with an art teacher. Well, honestly, just watch YouTube videos and like inspire yourself to create more work, whether it's like painting, photography, whatever it is, just create more work and take advantage of the time to and in the end for an art portfolio, it's all about talent. And so there you're not going to need to like you need to write an artist statement, but your work will show for itself. And the more work you do, the more you hone your craft, the more you hone your perspective, the better your portfolio, your art will be. And again, use if you can enter into competitions and get a few awards along the way, doesn't hurt. So I would definitely go for that. For the humanities, and if I would say humanities as it relates to like English and or history, with writing, you can certainly continue to write, and there are writing workshops. There are opportunities to like say like intern with a local news outlet. There is like even here in the Bay Area, there's a student-run newspaper that's running year-round, and they're always looking for high school students to contribute to those articles and just to work on their like journalistic craft. If you're in history, there are different like like so there are history competitions that you can do throughout the year. But at the same time, there are like I would say the history professor internship. So if you're actually to reach out to a history professor at a university, they don't get as many resumes or interests as like an engineering or a science professor, research professor might get. So
Uh-huh.
like if you reach out to a history professor and say, "Hey, history professor, I'll do whatever you want. I just want to learn. I'm happy to bring you coffee and like do online research for you. But I just want to understand what's happening on the research landscape." I think you're going to get a pretty good response from a lot of history professors. So I have a student right now who's really interested in Asian studies and sort of the evolution of Asian art in different Asian backgrounds. And so she reached out to three different local universities in the DC area and got a reply back from more than half of the professors she reached out to and said, "Yeah, definitely happy to have you come over, do some work. I got some stuff for you to do." So those are some ways that you can develop it over the summer.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have a friend who he's a student at Brown and he's majoring in history. And so when we were having dinner like a few months ago, he like pulls out his phone and goes on Amazon. And I'm like, is this guy like Amazon shopping in the middle of dinner? And he shows me that he actually he kind of co-wrote or like edited a history textbook with a professor in his first year at Brown, and it actually like is in the process of getting published. So I definitely think that reaching out to professors. I have a friend who just kind of like cold emailed a professor at UCLA for a internship and ended up like getting a year-long internship and learning a lot. So I definitely think that reaching out to professors is helpful. And kind of going into now like maybe for the STEM and maybe business or econ finance students that are listening, there's a lot of different activities, available, like you mentioned, for engineering and subjects like that. So do you think that the reputation of a program plays an important role? Because I think a lot of people kind of say that like, oh, if you're, interning at NASA or Google, it gives you like a very strong edge over students that might be interning at a lesser known like startup company. So would you say that, that it matters a lot, the prestige of the place you're kind of working for?
It's really, and I just also said that a guy who worked at McDonald's got into in Cornell engineering, right? So I
Right.
mean, I think if the prestige of McDonald's is significant enough, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because that's not entirely true either. It is impressive if someone were to get an internship at NASA. But here's the thing, like you have to understand if you're reading an application from beginning to end, you're trying to piece together a narrative and understand whether that student really is interested in that particular area and has reached some level of achievement. And I might, if I'm saying like, well, that's an impressive like internship, I might be looking for like how concrete of an experience you might had in one of your essays. So like if it's one of those things where it's not referenced in the essays or it's not like there's not a very rich story that's demonstrated from that experience, I might write it off. And then on top of the fact that there are letters of recommendations, and did the NASA supervisor write like an extra rec letter for you that is included on? And so it's not just like your dad got you this internship, right? Like I'm looking to piece together that story. And if I don't see the full story in other parts of your application, I might just kind of like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But just the name of it doesn't send me like, doesn't get me to like, doesn't, like I'm not, no,
Right.
fireworks don't fly out of my ears once I see NASA, right? So I'm looking for a more complete story.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And I have a friend who she's a junior in high school and she was really passionate about environmental science. So kind of going off of like the STEM subject, that was like the science that she's really been interested in. And she's actually worked with our high school to like implement like vegan lunches in the cafeteria. And she worked
Mm.
with like the city and even like eventually the White House to kind of figure out ways to make sure that the trash is more environment friendly and splitting things up into food scraps and all of that. So I think it's definitely like a nod to if you are looking to pursue like a project or an initiative in that field outside of just working like at a company, like that's definitely one way to go. And do you personally know like of any stories or examples where students kind of like led their own path in their STEM field or went a non-traditional route when it came to interning or doing a project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a student who was just volunteering at an like an elderly home, like a senior home. And she in the beginning she was just, like running the bingo hour and doing all sorts of stuff. And then she was then tasked to help distribute medication on a like normal like evening round. And she was just kind of fascinated with all the different, like organizing the different medication and really helping, like really understanding what the needs are of each resident and really using medication to really help meet their needs. And then so she kept signing back up for that time slot so she can work with a nutritionist who's helping with this. And then eventually this her curiosity led her back to asking the nutritionist how she organized all the medication, like the type of work that she did to make sure that the medication was right, and really to understand the needs of each resident so to prescribe what is appropriate and suitable for each person. And she ended up asking the nutritionist if she could commit to like a more in-depth internship with her. And the nutritionist was super excited because she needed the help. She's like, there's nobody who's actually interested in helping me with this work back here. So she's super happy. And the student also said, I'm happy to do it for free. That's also kind of a key thing. If you want to make it, kind of grease the wheel a little bit, always offer to work for free. But on top of that, so she said, I've never had any help, and I'm just excited to have somebody who's interested in the work that we're doing. So she's been interning with this nutritionist, and it just began from just volunteering and following your curiosity. And I think very similar to your friend who fought for vegan meals and sorting garbage and trash and composting, that really follow your curiosity, follow the things that really make you kind of come alive, or you're just interested in learning. And if you let that curiosity drive you, that will lead you to more interesting experiences as opposed to hunting for prestigious programs that you think might show up on a college app. I mean, that was my earlier student who was hunting around for a research internship and just ended up working at McDonald's. I mean, so let me encourage you, follow that curiosity.
Yes, definitely. And I think just kind of like as a little bit of a recap, especially now that students are going to start, maybe have already started to apply for, summer activities and programs or are starting to think of doing that in the coming weeks or so. What are some maybe tips you would provide when it comes to kind of, evaluating and selecting the activities that you want to actually pursue and kind of making sure you're taking factors like program reputation and location into consideration? How would you kind of advise people start to approach that now?
Yeah, so I would always still begin the organizing principle should be like what potential major might you want to study. So if you're like say I'm thinking about studying, like biology, right? So are there activities that you can search out for that will help you explore whether biology is a good fit? And again, if you're earlier in high school, then you can try it out and then ditch it if you don't like it, and it's totally fine. If you're more settled on biology as a major, then as you're like in 10th and 11th grade, you want to solidify by adding more biology experiences. And then you really want to do an activity that's related to your major the summer before you apply to college. So if it's a summer after your 11th grade, before your 12th grade, you want to do activities that really lead up to that particular major so that you really send off the strongest signal that you're a good fit for that particular major. So I would begin there with what your potential major may be. And then, especially if it's like say science, then there are a lot of prestigious science, like prestigious may be too strong a word, but there are a lot of science research programs out there.
Mhm.
And I also want to note that if you may have trouble affording some of these programs, most of these summer programs have financial aid for families that qualify for financial aid. So don't be afraid if you feel like you may not be able to afford it. There are going to be some resources, but even if it's not traditional, like even if you're not getting into a science research program, again, as I mentioned, like there's always like ample volunteering on Volunteer Match where like local preservation societies are looking for students to do like water testing and animal profiling in the woods and stuff like that. So there's going to be ways for you to explore it and for you to find volunteering summer programs, internships, whatever the case may be, working with your nutritionist, just find ways to do so.
Yeah, and I think I have, before concluding, I have kind of one quick question to branch off of, like you mentioned, the financial aspect sometimes. So I have heard, but I am not entirely sure. Is it true that when you're applying to college, especially, I know that like the private system or UC system ask you to kind of split your activities up into your educational programs and your job and then your volunteer. So do you think that different aspects are weighted differently? Like, I've personally heard sometimes that if you only have activities in one category, like you only volunteered or you only did jobs, that might not be looked upon as well as somebody who kind of did activities in different categories. Do you have any insight on that, like for people to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So honestly, I think the main reason why there's categories is because, especially with like the University of California application platform, okay, no matter what UC admission officer tells you, they're not spending 10 minutes on your application. So like, let's just say generously they're spending like maybe 4 or 5 minutes max. And
Okay.
I could probably argue it's probably less than that, but we'll save that for another time. But
Mhm.
let's just say it's anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes. The organization of the activity is just to help a reader like look at it more quickly and to not have to read every single word. And so this is where that's the reason why. So I wouldn't feel like you need a particular activity that fills every box. And I still would come back to like there is on the UC app there is a general sort of like extracurricular activity section. So there is like school clubs and those kind of things. I'd still encourage students to. I think deep has more to do with commitment, has more to do with responsibility, has more to do with maybe levels of leadership and maybe less about the prestige of a particular program. And so interning with a nutritionist is way more like there's more responsibility, there's more depth, and there's more leadership opportunity than just running the bingo hour at the senior home. Right?
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense, and I hope that our viewers out there are kind of going to take advantage of the different summer opportunities that are available to them, and kind of enhance experience and academic profile while also having a chance to explore their passion. So that concludes this episode of our Comet podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening and gained valuable insights from our discussion. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on this week's episode and share it with your friends and family. If there are specific topics you want to hear about or specific people you want to see featured on our podcast, feel free to let us know in the comment section below, or you can go to www.applywithcomet.com/podcast. Our contact information will also be in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on our Comet podcast.